Okay, welcome back everyone. I'm going to jump right into the stock charts. I'm going to give you guys some trade ideas and interesting things to look at. Again, we're really just using technical analysis to try to find trade ideas on this channel. So if you like that, if you find some value in the content that I'm putting out, give me a thumbs up. You know, I try to put out trade ideas. They don't all work out. Obviously, you have to manage your risk. Position sizing is important. Stop losses and taking profit as you have winners. All that is taught in my course. It's a $99 course for about 5-6 hours of instruction. Link is in the description below if you're interested in that. All right, getting right into the charts. We're going to start out with the Russell 2000 futures. You can see recently, the Russell 2000 has been on an absolute tear. And here's the futures. We've got kind of an uptrend right now. And we're starting to break down from that uptrend line. So we do have an actual breakdown on the futures here, and we're just kind of like hanging out, but starting to get that breakdown. Let's look at the IWM. So IWM doesn't have the breakdown or sell signal yet. You can see going all the way back to November, you have this upward channel. We had 2 false breakdowns. Now, if you want, you could move your trend line down to like something like that, just to give you a kind of a more conservative benefit of the doubt trend line. But I'm going to leave mine right here. And you can see we had a false breakdown. Now, this breakdown was during the holiday time period. So I just kind of X that out. Just throw that out and don't really... yes, it's in the chart, but it was during the holiday season. And you get a lot of whipsaws and stuff during that time. So we throw that out. Now, this breakdown here was a false breakdown. So it broke down and recovered. So again, we don't have the breakdown yet, but we're starting to see the futures soften a little bit. So, you know, you just got to watch that until you get the breakdown in the IWM. There is no sell signal, but as you watch the futures, we might start to see things firm up. Looking at the daily chart here on the IWM, you can see we have negative divergence. As I zoom in, see the RSI, see how it's trending down. Not too steeply, but it is making lower highs and lower lows. So it's trending down, and yet price is still, you know, making a new high. So negative divergence is there. Also, this purple line that I have, I believe, is kind of the longer term trend line that I can mark out. Yeah, this goes all the way back to the 2009 lows on the weekly chart. Now, we did have a breakdown here and kind of a whipsaw signal, but the trend really started to firm up after that. And you can see all the reactions that held the support after that. So lots of confirmations on support around, you know, for a couple of years. We then broke trend there in 2018. And we've had no actual back tests of this broken trend line until just recently. So as I zoom in, you can see ramping up. This is a full back test of the IWM trend line. So we're at major resistance. We've got negative divergence on the daily. We're just now narrowing it down to the hourly, starting to see the future soften. But again, we're looking for that hourly breakdown below, you know, right now it's about 224, somewhere right in there. You'll want to see a nice solid hourly close to confirm a breakdown. Triple Qs, no sell signals yet. We're just pinching up within this bearish rising wedge, just continuing to coil higher. You know, this is a pretty good reaction that we have now at this trend line. So I'm going to leave this red line up and call that the top of our wedge. So there's the top of the wedge. The green line's the bottom. I'm looking for a sell signal or an impulsive breakdown below this green line. Until then, we're just continuing to trend up within this wedge. And so no sell signals. On the daily, you have negative divergence that continues to extend. So this, you know, we're coming to the point now, you can see within this wedge, we're really at the apex. We've had really extended negative divergence. I think something's going to happen soon. So we're just kind of getting to that point. The Fed is also coming out today at 11 Pacific time, I believe. So we'll see what they say. That might trigger it. You know, this market really does trade off the Fed. If you don't believe me, just look at the SPY chart, which is what we'll look at next. 2019, this is all induced by the Fed, all right? 2020, this is all induced by the Fed. Earnings haven't gotten any better. They actually are getting worse. Yeah, earnings are better from, you know, the way down here when we're in the depths of a pandemic. Earnings are better than that, but earnings are not actually year over year getting better. They're getting worse. This is all multiple expansion. This is multiple expansion. So, the Fed comes out. Maybe they're the catalyst for what I see coming up as some significant downside. To me, it looks like the markets are set up to break down. Let's look at the SPY here. All right, SPY coming off the March 2020 lows. We're looking at a daily chart. We've been uptrending. We've got support here, held all through here. You can see the reactions on the daily chart. And then we broke. So there's your breakdown. And if I we'll get to the hourly chart here in a second, but we broke down. Here's a back test of the trend line and then coming up and doing another back test. Today, they gapped it up, making it look like they wanted to recover. But then it's now still down below. So it was a rejection. Nothing impulsive yet. So still too close to call. And before I move to the hourly, daily chart, big negative divergence on the RSI and the PPO. So again, we've got really extended negative divergence, which at this moment in time tells me that we're going to have, a good size move to the downside when or if we get that impulsive sell signal. Let's look at the hourly here. So you can see that blue line. That's the trend line that I have marked out from 2009 lows. And today they gapped it above it, instantly sold off. So that was a reaction around that trend line. So we'll continue to look to see if we get some more reactions. Are there sellers up here, basically? Because as of right now, there were sellers when we opened the day. It's still too close to call. It's 1 hour, and we're talking about a major trend line. So I suspect we kind of, mess with that trend line for a little while. But again, we're below trend. And again, here's the breakdown of that bearish rising wedge coming off the March 2020 lows going all the way back to here. And here's the breakdown. There's a back test coming up, kind of another back test. And you can see when they recovered it, they barely recovered it. It was just kind of grinding on it there, and now it's back down below. So as I zoom this out like that, you can see now if they come back up for another test, it's going to be dual resistance. It will be part of that bearish rising wedge coming off the March 2020 lows, and on the weekly chart, the major trend line resistance coming off the 2009 lows. So there's your support on the weekly, support all through there. Break, test it from below as resistance, and this is where we're at as of right now, right in that area. So major resistance in this area. If you break above, there could obviously be a melt up top, but as of right now, we've got some major resistance to contend with. So, and we have negative divergence. So I'm thinking lower, but again, we got to see that impulsive breakdown. Long-term bonds, TLT. All right. So really the thing to watch for on this daily chart, bullish divergence. Let me zoom in. You can see bullish divergence. Momentum is moving higher in the long bond. And yet on the price, we've made kind of a new lower low in this area right here. So this is a divergent low, which means you have a high probability of reversing trend and going higher. And for me, I'm not really trying to trade the long bond. I'm just watching it for signals on what the market's going to do. So if the long bond moves higher, it's likely catching a bid because the market's selling off. So again, I'm seeing some positive momentum in the long bond, which means there's potential buyers here accumulating for protection, if the market's going to sell off. All right, so let's get into a couple trade ideas and some stocks to look at. So the other day I pointed out Redfin, no trade yet, just a trade setup, but I want to point it out. So on the daily, negative divergence right there, nice confirmed negative divergence. And really, you can see recently when we made this high right in this area, we didn't have negative divergence and we didn't make a new high. Now, this little spike here was a divergent high and it failed. You can see it rolled over. And then recently they spiked it all the way up here and that put in a much higher negative divergence. So clear negative divergence is in place now on both the RSI and the PPO on the daily chart. And what I'd be looking for is a break back below this 82.95. All right. Looking at that held as resistance several times. You can see we kind of just kept contending with it all through this area. We then broke out, which is a breakout. And if we come back down and break back below, that's a false breakout. So I'd be looking for that. If you get that false breakout, then to me, that sets us up for a move all the way down to about 57 or so over time, as a swing trade. And I also mentioned, this divergent high had a high probability of failing. when I talked about this the other day, I said, look, we have a breakout, but it's a divergent high. It has a high probability of failing. And today, it's down 4%. Now, it hasn't failed yet. So I just want to point it out before, if it actually does fail, you'll know what to look for. But this is, you can see we're getting rejected so far today. So if we close down here, let's say we closed in this area, then we've got a bearish engulfing outside day candle, which is a reversal candle. That outside day is when you open higher than the previous day and close below the previous day. So you completely trade through or outside of the previous day's trading action. And it's also a bearish engulfing, which is just a candle that engulfs the previous day's trading action to the downside. So ultimately, if we get that bearish engulfing outside day candle, that's a potential reversal. You want to look for follow through. So again, what I'd be looking for is more selling and ultimately a break and close below this 82.65. That would signal a false breakout, and that would signal we're likely heading lower. And a close. Okay, let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla's been going nowhere for quite a while. It's just kind of sideways. The level that I'm really starting to watch is about this 801.50 area. You can see on the hourly chart, we hit that back here, came up, ran into it right there at about, it's about 801 basically. Undercut it once, and then today we came right back down to that level, and it held as support. So that's kind of the support area. If that breaks, then I think it's look out below for Tesla. So again, I'm kind of watching that level to see what happens. On the daily chart, we have negative divergence. This is a big negative divergence. It's really just been going on for this entire rally. And we have this uptrend line right here. This is coming off the March 2020 lows. And we broke trend. Did almost a full back test, didn't quite get up there, and then recently we've just been going sideways. So this is either just a consolidation before running up to like 1,000, or we're going to break down here at 800, start to sell off. Things to watch for, and I just want to point it out. We're at the area now where if we start to break this level, we should see pretty swift move down. First level of support that I got is about this 625 area. Below, I had a couple lines here, but I think really, we break 625, and I'd be looking for this 462. It's about 463 as the next level of support. Okay, let's look at some subscriber stock picks. Disney. Someone asked me if it's time to short Disney. So this is actually the very first moment that I pulled this chart up since looking at it last time. I don't see anything here saying short Disney to be. Let me get rid of that tool. I don't see anything telling me to short Disney at this moment in time. I've got this uptrend line coming off the March 2020 lows. Brief undercut right here where was a false breakdown. There is negative divergence. You can see here on the daily, we've got clear negative divergence showing up on the RSI and the PPO. But again, there's no broken support. If you go to the hourly, if you wanted to jump the gun and maybe trade it down to that what looks like that support, you've got this trend line that's sitting right about there, and we're just flirting with that right now. It hasn't impulsively broken down. What I'd wait for on a sell signal of this is an impulsive breakdown on the hourly and a close. But as of right now, it's still above trend. It's going up. Its momentum is up on the daily. We do have negative divergence, but we've got no breakdown. So I think if we broke down from here, then you could likely see Disney come down to this trend line. Again, you don't know when that's going to be though. So it's possible it just comes right down, or it could kind of drift sideways until it gets there. What I'd be waiting for on this one is a break of this major trend line on the daily chart. Okay, guys, that's really all I got. I'll keep an eye out for anything that's changed. Any other stock that I've pointed out in the past, whether it's Etsy or Carvana or any of those, nothing's really changed technically. We're still kind of just in the same situation as before. So I'm just waiting for the technical posture or breakdowns to happen before kind of pointing those back out again. So, yeah, that's all I got. Thanks, guys.